paralyzed cow, a paralyzed former teacher, and a thumb restored to working conditions. These are some of the best special case stories that I have to share with you today from my 25 years of being a chiropractor. And today, I'm here to share them with you. Let's first of all talk about Buddy the calf. Now, Buddy had been paralyzed for 36 days, and its owners were doing everything they could to feed and nourish this calf, but the calf was not walking. It was paralyzed from the waist down. And so the owner, Stephanie, came in one day. She said, "Hey, have you ever adjusted a calf before? We've got a calf that's not walking." And I said, "Yeah, we'd give it a shot." And so we learned about Buddy the calf. So what happened with this calf was when it was born, it ran off the farm, ran off the property, went through the fence, and a neighboring farmer picked up the calf, put it in a trailer that had diamond plate. Now, diamond plate is this really smooth metal, and this other farmer said, "Boy, this calf was really, moving around a lot and falling and whatever. It was in this trailer, just falling and falling and falling." Well, what happened was the calf got hurt. The calf's back was now subluxated to the point where it could no longer walk. So it could walk, it could in fact run, then it became paralyzed. It became paralyzed because of this injury. Well, before I went over, I Googled, what does the anatomy of a calf look like? Oh, it's got this many lumbar vertebrae, it's got this part of the back looks like this, and so I had a thought of what to do. But when I checked the calf, I could feel like a marble-sized swelling at the spot that was out of place. And so I adjusted this calf 7-8 times, and we prayed for the calf, and it was really exciting to see this calf got its legs back. In fact, 2 months later, I had a video of this calf bounding and jumping, and I think Buddy was telling me, "Hey, I'm doing great." And they kept this calf another year and a half, and it never fully developed in that hind end just perfectly, but it was a happy animal, and it lived well, and it was well loved, well taken care of, and it was really an amazing experience because we got to see a paralyzed mammal, calf in this case, be healed. And one of the things that I've wanted to do as a chiropractor is see people get healed. I've wanted to see people that are paralyzed get healed. Now, that brings me to one of the most amazing cases I ever saw, and it was a patient named Carol. I was working for a gentleman named John Thatcher, and Dr. Thatcher was in 40 plus years in practice at that point, and very knowledgeable, really an expert in the field. And he ends up having this patient in his clinic named Carol come into the office. And now before Carol came in, seeing a person that's paralyzed walk again is something I wanted to see. I saw other conditions get helped in that clinic. I saw somebody that had asthma who I remember asking, "Does this help your asthma?" He said, "I've been to the ER 18 times and there was no drug as powerful as this adjustment." And so I could check off in my mental notes, "Oh, this chiropractic helps asthma." Well, I saw all these different conditions helped with Dr. Thatcher. Another one we saw was this gentleman that called up from Arizona. He was down to 130 pounds and he was unable to even swallow oatmeal. He was losing weight. He couldn't eat anything. He called Dr. Thatcher and said, I'm having this problem swallowing. Dr. Thatcher said, "I know what to do. Come on up to St. Paul, Minnesota." And he got his atlas adjusted. And this patient, when I talked to him, it was now 6-7 years later, and he was now up to 160 some pounds. He could eat what he wanted, and he said that chiropractic care saved his life. So that was pretty amazing. Another case we had at Dr. Thatcher's was this guy that in 1975 went to Dr. Thatcher with back pain, but he also had a brain tumor. He also had he had headaches all the time, and he only told Dr. Thatcher about the low back pain, and he went home, told his wife, "I'm not going back. I had one adjustment, I'm not going back." His wife cried, so this patient went back to Dr. Thatcher, and it turns out that 2 years later, this guy's brain tumor was gone. And he had been given a diagnosis by 2 different doctors that he had about 16 years to live with this slow-growing brain tumor. Now, I met this patient in 2000. He was 85 years of age. He was golfing 3 days a week in Texas all winter and was healthy, was robust, and that tumor never came back. So that was a pretty amazing thing. So we saw these different things with Dr. Thatcher, and Dr. Thatcher, I should mention, did the Gonstead technique. He learned from Dr. Gonstead. He actually had 16 years of time learning from Dr. Gonstead. Dr. Gonstead owned the busiest practice in the world. We do the Gonstead technique or system in our office. I'm a diplomat in that system. But with all those different conditions we saw with Dr. Thatcher, I wanted to see somebody that was paralyzed get healed. I had heard about it happening, and I thought, well, that'd be amazing to see happen. Well, this patient came in, and she'd been paralyzed for 6 years, and I thought, well, maybe she's the one. Maybe she's the one that's going to become unparalyzed. We get to see this whole process happen. And there's a couple key things that were going on for her. She had feeling in her legs, and that gave Dr. Thatcher a clue that there was nerve supply going from her brain down that spinal column all the way to her legs. And so she had feeling, but she didn't have any function. Her legs had not moved for 6 years. She was in a car accident about 6 years before she came in, and she was paralyzed from the waist down. And Dr. Thatcher would check her mid-back, check T6, and he'd look at that, and he would check closely, and you know, he'd adjust her, and he'd be very enthusiastic with Carol and encouraging her to keep coming in. And after a while, I thought, well, we should see something by now. And we hadn't. And it's kind of like weeks are going by, months are going by, and nothing has happened yet. And you know, I should mention some things about Carol. Dr. Thatcher said, well, she had been a teacher, and I thought, well, how could this woman be a teacher? She didn't look like she could ever have gone to college. She kind of was like this kind of appearance with long, greasy hair, thick Coke bottle glasses. She did not look like somebody that would ever be hired as a teacher or could have ever been a teacher. Well, time goes by. I leave that practice, not really understanding why Dr. Thatcher was still so enthusiastic, because it seemed like the ethical thing to have done would have been have a conversation to tell Carol, this is obviously not going to work for you. That's what I thought he should have said. And I never told Dr. Thatcher that. But I was in my first year of practice, so I really didn't know what Dr. Thatcher knew. Well, time goes by, a couple years later, and Dr. Thatcher and Dr. Jason, who was also in that practice, both told me separately Carol was out of the wheelchair. And I believe those people to be honest, truthful people, but I didn't see Carol. And so Dr. Thatcher passes away maybe 4 or 5 years after Carol's care was started. And I'm at Dr. Thatcher's funeral, and I'm looking at the third pew back, or actually the fourth pew back. I remember where this gal was sitting, and there was a couple there, and this gal had a tight perm, there's no glasses, and I remember thinking, who is this person? Why is she sitting way up there? And I thought maybe she was kind of in a place of prominence, and there's a lot of kind of well-known even people in Dr. Thatcher's practice at times, and I just kind of thought, well, who are these people? And I kept looking at her, and then I'd listen to the person talking at this service, and I'd look at her, and I ended up watching her stand up and walk out of that church. And I remember her even grabbing the doorknob and walking out of there. And what I saw was somebody that walked fine. There was no cane, no crutch, no limp. There was no sign of paralysis. And I still didn't recognize her as this is being Carol until I was driving home, and I realized, oh, that's Carol. That was the woman that had been paralyzed. That was the woman that Dr. Jason and Dr. Thatcher said was no longer paralyzed. And so what was amazing for me to see was, and I think it was a gift from Dr. Thatcher, was to see more about chiropractic care, more about the vision of how healing can take time. You know, there's 33 principles in chiropractic. Number 6 is the principle of time. And so we got to see the principle of time in action with Carol. You know, the fact that she wasn't healed in a day didn't surprise me, but I thought in 2 months we'd start seeing her legs move or some kind of sign that there's something happening here. Well, when you heal a nerve, it's a millimeter a day of healing, so it was going to take some time to get her healed. What was also interesting to see looking back at that case, and I think so profoundly important as a doctor, was Dr. Thatcher's, not just his care, but his caring and his energy, his enthusiasm for Carol that really made a difference. It was his encouragement for Carol to keep coming back that got Carol to keep coming back. Now, Dr. Thatcher passed away. I never thought I'd get such a great mentor as Dr. Thatcher. And I had some more questions on cases. I still was a young doctor in maybe those first 5-6 years of practice, and I needed some help from those older doctors. And I got a new mentor, Dr. Alex Cox. And he's had over 20 people flown into Wisconsin in his career. Now he's in his late 90s, or in his 90s. But he had over 20 people flown in from France to Wisconsin for chiropractic care because he got somebody out of a wheelchair. So I asked him at some point, I said, you know, Dr. Alex, you had so many patients come in for care for paralysis. And I said, I just haven't seen that happen in my career. And what he said to me is, and he'd started practice in 1962, he said, we used to have time to get those people better. We used to have the time to help them. And he said what's happened later on is the person would be paralyzed and they would be told by that expert that next day after they're paralyzed, don't get your hopes up. Don't think that you're going to ever come out of this. Isn't that wild? But these people that didn't know any better, that got flown in from France, what was found was not all of them got healed from paralysis, but all of them got bowel and bladder function back so they could leave their house. They got better. You know, so it isn't always just coming out of paralysis is the goal. Maybe it's just being able to get your bowel and bladder function back. But isn't it something to see how the power of the right adjustment can take somebody that's paralyzed like Carol or paralyzed like those French people and get them to walk again. The other case I want to share with you that was so interesting was a patient named Roberto. Now, Roberto's a long-term patient, one of our favorite patients, and he's come in for an adjustment. And I noticed on his ring finger, that there's some tape on it. He's got some kind of like duct tape on his finger. Not the usual kind of tape, and I asked him, I said, well, what's going on? He's working at a paper company, and there's a blade, and somebody bumps his hand, and his finger ends up getting accidentally put into the glide path of that blade, and he ends up getting the tip of his finger cut off. He goes to the ER. They explain to him the whole process to sew this on or repair this. And he's waiting and waiting. He doesn't want to wait. So he says, hey, just throw that tip away. I'll be fine. And he really thinks he's going to be fine. He comes in to see me 2 weeks later, and I take a look at this tip of this finger. It is not progressing. It is not going anywhere fast. I can see 3 nerves that are sticking out. Now, he hasn't cut it so far back that he's cut the bone, but it's just past the end of that bone, and you can see those nerves. It's very tender, and he's just waiting for it to get better. Well, I say to him, Roberto, we should get our cold laser and do some help with that. And we end up lasering him 25 times, and it was one of the most amazing things that I got to see as far as healing. You know, when you heal with a paralysis, you don't get to see that nerve heal. You don't get to see that muscle twitch come back necessarily inside the body, but this cut finger, you can see it heal. Well, what was exciting to watch was we got to see the shape of it come back. He had lost that flesh, but we got to see that shape come back into that end of into that finger. And I think it came back about 90% of what it originally was. But the most amazing thing was the fingerprint came back. That end of that tissue that was gone, that fingerprint came back onto that tissue. And you didn't see a cut across here. It was just like it had been reformed just right at the end of that finger. It was so amazing to see. Now, what was funny about that whole case was this ends up to be a work comp claim. And the work comp claim pays nothing. And even though he gets his whole digit fixed like this, it was amazing to see. And what I thought was funny about it was their attorney called me, and because we disputed the case, and she said, well, how much have you been paid? And I said, zero. We haven't been paid anything. And I think they paid us maybe $1,200 or $1,400. But what a value to get his end of his finger back in place. And just a beautiful healing. And it's amazing to see all these different healings we've seen over the years. Another case we had was my Uncle Frank. My Uncle Frank had 25 blood tests done where his spleen count was high. It was between 900,000 and 925,000. And typically the top end of that number should be about 450,000. So he's way high. They tell him if he goes to 1 million, he should do chemotherapy. And I'm thinking about this. Now, I'm a chiropractic student at the time, but I'm thinking, he's got too much function. And in health, in chiropractic care, we talk about there's either too much function, your spleen count's too high, or too little function, that it's too low. Well, his was too high, and I thought about why that would happen. And if this is pinched up here, affecting the vagus nerve to the spleen, that can cause uncontrolled function in the spleen, and that's what was happening. We adjusted him, and he came back with measurements, and I got to just see those numbers. I just found them recently in my credenza in my office, but they came down to 650,000 from that 900 to 925,000. And that was another exciting thing to see, because it was the application, the proper and precise application of chiropractic that changed his spleen count. Another exciting thing we saw over the years was a cop from north of us in Peshtigo, who came in and said his EKG was wrong. Was not wrong, but it wasn't right. It wasn't the way it should look. And he had a cardiologist in our area that said, you need to go to the Mayo Clinic and get a heart surgery. Mayo Clinic said, let's wait 6 months and see how you're doing. So he came in and we adjusted a nerve for the heart, T3. We adjusted a nerve for his adrenal system, T9. And that adrenal system can affect the heart because that affects the dilation of the blood vessel into the heart. And we did 15 adjustments. 6 months later, he goes back and gets an EKG again by the same cardiologist locally. And the cardiologist says to the person, the technician doing the heart testing, did you do this properly? Did you put those leads on the proper way? And the cardiologist takes the report, puts his hands in the air, he says, I don't understand this. You're 10 times better. You can do anything except marathon running, and you don't need a heart surgery. So isn't that something? That was another thing we got to see, very exciting thing that we got to see. So today we've talked about lame animals walking again, or paralyzed animals walking again, paralyzed people walking again, spleen counts getting better again, fingers that are miraculously healed with laser, and we've also talked about spleen counts getting better. So all those different things happen with the proper application of either chiropractic or cold laser therapy. If you've got a need for chiropractic care or hyperbaric oxygen therapy or cold laser therapy, we'd love to serve you at our office. If you'd like to leave a comment in the section below. We'd be happy to have you do that. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. We look forward to talking to you again next time.